that though. And plus, I'm the man trying to take the bronze crown. You know what I'm saying? And if we go even further into the depth of the match, Indiana is a big man team. You got David Westbrook, who I don't know who Roy Hibbert was or where he was. I think he didn't play up.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know. Somebody just snatched his goal. Like, he just was not there. Yeah.
I think he stole somebody stole his. You know what he reminded me of? Space Jam. They coward.
Hey, that's legit though. That is legit, bro.
They're all in power and he just went away. And so I thought, when I take Lance on my team, probably yeah, because he's a feature, but if you have to put him on the team, you couldn't put him on the team to run our dental thing. You know what I'm saying? Or is it Meta World League? You couldn't put them on the team. So if you call George and the media has found you as captain, but you're not really captain, and you know as leader, do you step up to the media and say something? And I think most of all, tell me what y'all think of Vogel's coaching, because I think he got out coaching 2 years in a row.
Well, yeah, I'll completely agree with you there. I think he got out coached. With the Vogel, I think Vogel lost it, man. They had that horrible stretch coming out of the All-Star break. I think that's when Vogel lost that team. And to your point, your earlier point with Lance Stevenson, I think you can have a Lance Stevenson on your team, just like you can have a Dennis Rodman on your team, or is David Daniel, those who remember him back in the day, as long as you have your personality to him on the team. Dennis Rodman, he always had somebody else that can check him whenever he got. So I don't think you doubt it. And if it really came down to it, Phil Jackson or Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen could say or do the things he needs to do to get him back in line. Because it's crazy because he never missed any games. He never put his team in a position to where he couldn't play because of his antics or, anything like that. And I think with Lance, you can have that as long as somebody else with personality that's a star. And they chill out. And do it within a company without public what he get their hands on it. And with Vogel, I mean, he got all the stuff like the Final Four. He was, and I'm even saying that he's not being out there. But there was such a gap between him, Erick and I'll have Erick in the past, but at least he's willing to make changes when he has to make changes. So when he has to make adjustments to his lineup, he's willing to do it. If he has the hard ball, he's willing to do it, whereas playing Vogel isn't really as flexible with doing that, and I think he's one of these cats that comes off like, I'm going to prove my way is right. He's actually being flexible enough to push the team and make adjustments and make changes and that kind of a thing.
Yeah. I don't feel like he's playing that well.
I'm not sure if they're deep enough to even for Vogel to be in a position where he can make a lot of things. That lineup is not flexible. In my opinion, I don't know what changes he made, really.
Yeah. Well, I don't think... But they traded for your boy, and they didn't play him at all.
Oh, see, that right there was stupid. What's his name? The boy from Philly. That was stupid. I feel like the Danny Granger thing coupled with the catfish and everything that was going on for it, like, those things happened like all at once. It was like the perfect storm, and that's when everything started to like tumble down. And yeah, the whole trade with Granger, we were saying that me and Javon had that conversation like, man, I have a feeling this may come back and bite again in the butt. And it kind of did. Maybe that wasn't the only thing, but I think that played a certain role. Kind of fed into that uncertainty.
So would y'all say Danny Granger might have been a better fit for that team? A healthy Danny Granger was a better fit than a healthy Paul George.
Well, I don't know if I go that far.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Paul George is 24 years old. You know what I mean? So I know we're comparing a healthy Danny Granger to a healthy Paul George. I still think the healthy Paul George has a higher ceiling than Danny Granger ever did. But to me, the reason why I don't think you get rid of Danny Granger in that spot is because you really didn't have to. Like, if you're going to pull a trade for him and then go grab Evan Turner, only not to play Evan Turner, and at least keep Danny Granger for that year because his contract wasn't up and you could have easily got rid of him at the end of the year. If Danny Granger, have somebody on that team who can give you some minutes off the bench because he said he was willing to do it, and at least he has an attitude that Paul George respects, and since he's been there forever, he can help control Lance Stevenson. And honestly, if Lance ever gets out of pocket, you have a player good enough to get on the court instead of Lance and take some of those minutes whenever Lance is out of control. So I think they really didn't have to get rid of him. It may not even be a question of like, you know, would Danny Granger have taken too much away from Paul George? I think at least for this year, you didn't have anything to lose by keeping him, especially if you're going to spend all that money to ditch him and get Evan Turner, only just to use Evan Turner and probably trade him away next year.
Do you think you keep, Coach, do you think we kind of see Paul George, and you have to tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, I see Paul George is kind of fragile. You know what I'm saying? He cowers in the face of adversity. So if you have Paul George having an off night or having an off playoff series as he beat the first, I mean, we only had, I can count on like 2 good games he had out of this, 16, 17 they played. Do you think somebody like Danny Granger coming off the bench, pouring in about 20, 30 points as he's possible to doing, would change Paul George's life? You know what I mean?
I'll let you take that one, man.
Yeah, repeat part of that question again? My phone was breaking up. I'm sorry.
I'm wondering if Paul George would have cowered if he's having a bad game and Danny Granger comes in with a 2 game. You know what I'm saying? Come off the bench, come in the performance, score like 25, and then Paul George is having a bad night, you know?
Yeah, I think that was something that was always possible. Like, I look at Granger, like, I don't even, like, talent-wise, I don't even put Granger in the same stratosphere as George. But you just having that safety net, and you have a guy like that who's been around, you know, for so long with the organization, a veteran in the game at this time, who is willing to come off the bench. Like, I think that's so valuable, you know, and you definitely don't want to lose that. And their bench is already not, you know, that great. You know, Evan Turner, I never really, I don't know, not a player that I really care for, but, you know, you have a guy like Granger that could kind of be that safety net. I think that's always better. George, I think the story is still being written on him. Obviously, I mean, he's got years and years to kind of, you know, correct his wrongs or what have you. Like Javon said, he's only 24 years old.
Yeah.
Even one thing, and, you know, I don't want to just, you know, I may have my certain differences with LeBron and things that I may say about him, but just one thing about LeBron is, you know, I've always heard him say, even if he's being PC about it, politically correct, he always puts it on his shoulders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yo,
he's putting it. Yeah. So he's always putting the onus on his shoulders. And I think the makeup, I think LeBron at 24 years old versus Paul George at 24 years old, like, I think LeBron is at a better place mentally, even though he couldn't really get over that hump. Yeah, you're talking about a guy who in 2009, what year was it? I think 2007, led his team to the finals. With, you know, his best sidekick was, you had Booby Gibson and you had Mo Williams. And but just kind of going off on LeBron and saying, you know,
games weren't that bad, though.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't that bad. They weren't that bad. But he led him to a finals. Period. And one thing I always heard from LeBron was that, you know, he always put the onus on his shoulders, which is something that I've been kind of waiting to see from Paul George. And I like to see a player that owns up, because you kind of see, like, okay, this guy's putting it on his shoulders and he wants to be great. I don't know if I see it as much in Paul George. I kind of see a guy who got comfortable. You know, everybody's praising him, and oh man, they're saying that I'm this. I think he kind of got to his head. Part of that, led to him, downfalling a little bit or slipping a little bit. I don't know if he has it in him to really want to be great, to have that desire to be so great. But the story is being written. But I think having Granger would definitely help.
Yeah,
way more than Evan Turner would.
Oh yeah. But I think you gotta give him. So here's what I think. I always thought that LeBron James going to Miami was a good move because one, it helped him grow up. You know what I'm saying? Because he was out of his hometown. Now he's out of the hometown. It's kind of like D-MAUB out. You know what I'm saying? So now I got to grow up and be on my own. Then he had another vocal person around him in D-Wade who was going to take the pressure off of him that first year, so he could learn how to respond to Miami and how to play in Miami. And even though they lost the first year finals, I think you saw him like, okay, we're building so we can possibly win one. You know what I'm saying? And he learned from his mistakes. And I think you might have to do something like that with Paul George. You help Paul George up with somebody like if you're Larry Bird, you try to get a Kyrie Irving, you try to get a Derrick Rose to be healthy, or you try to get somebody who's going to take the pressure off Paul George and not be as Washington as Lance Houston. You know what I mean? I think Lance would take the pressure off of him, but Lance is not going to be Lance is going to be Lance in media. You know what I'm saying? He going to say something that's going to be like, oh, man. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I think he's going to do that.
And I'll tell you this, man, just to jump in real quick, I think part of it, too, is Paul George kind of, to me, if we're talking about him, he kind of comes off like a little brother type deal, where he looks up to all of those cats. You can tell by the way that he talks about, he goes on and on about LeBron. Like, he's extremely complimentary of him, and I think he kind of has that little brother type complex. So, to me, I don't think the Danny Granger thing would have hurt at all. Usually, that's the kind of role that he, at least right now, fits into. Like, he likes that whole little brother thing, having somebody there to bail him out. And so, some players grow up in this way. Like Erick said, going back to the fact that the dude's only 24 years old, that has something to do with it. I mean, we forget LeBron's 29 years old right now. So, he probably, would have been stressed before the whole decision thing. And they made all these runs to the finals. He's definitely grown during that time. And I think Paul George has time to do that. But to me, I want to be a dead horse because to me that makes me more excited about the whole OKC thing. And you're talking about your two stars, 25 and 24, and right now they're more mentally than Paul George, who's 24 years old, and Lance Stevenson, who's 23 years old. There's a little bit of a separation there, but I still think they're missing the thing that Ron and Wade have all those extra years and extra experience put in. But
well, I think when you bring them in, though, when you get young guys together though who haven't won by themselves, you know what I'm saying? D-Wade won by himself, LeBron won by himself, Bosh won by himself, he's over in Toronto, you know what I'm saying? When you're together and all you know how to do is play together, and you don't get over the hump together, you be like, hey, I'm going to add another piece because these pieces ain't working. You don't want to say shit real quick, what you got, you got to keep these two pieces together. But I think it might be seeing a time to go where, even as good as the Bulls were, they still had a third option to score. You know what I'm saying? You weren't going to stop Jordan. You might not stop. You might have been in like 18 and 6. They always had somebody they had John Jackson, they had Archie Grant, and it's ugly as Bill Cartwright shot. They didn't score like never before. They always had a score.
DJ Armstrong could score from the point guard. You had people.
You had Ron Harper in those later years.
Yeah. Well, Indiana, you're probably going to have to get rid of George Hill. He's a liability at the point. Evan Turner is going to be a free agent. He'll tell him to bring you back. He probably will bring you back. We don't know how much money the market offers them and how much he goes off them to be able to stay. Honestly, if I'm in Lance Stevenson's spot, I don't want to take with Paul George because of how he did. I don't want to stay on that team because I feel that they did back. You know what I'm saying? I think, what, if Lance Stevenson was playing for the Bulls with Joe Keith, he'd be a big squad.
Yeah.
And so that's what I see, man. So